Okay, how's that? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Oh, I guess I should be talking. So anyways, Jeannie, I hope that answers your question. Um, just in case my mic wasn't working, I'm going to rewrite that really quick. The question was, what do you think the biggest mistake that agents make? I think that the biggest mistake that agents make on social media is that, thank you, good, okay, is that they go for the sale on social media. That's not what social media is for, right? Social media is a distribution channel in order to get your content out. And if you're going for the sale on social media, you're missing the mark because, again, and I tell my team this all the time, there's nothing that we can do to make someone spend $750,000 or whatever on a house when they're not ready to spend $750,000 on a house. You can't do that. But what you can do is you can be present and active and provide educational and valuable information to your database or to your client base for 2, 3, 4 years so that when they're ready to spend $750,000 on a house, they call you before going to Zillow or they call you before going to Google. So I guess it's a macro mindset thing that if you're using social media to go for the kill and go for the sale, you're losing, you're missing out. But if you're using social media to provide value, to be a resource, then you're going to win. That's the biggest mistake I think I see. Again, I'm repeating myself because my headphones weren't in, but and that's secondarily to just being present. I think the biggest mistake is just not being present and being active or being inconsistent. Once you've got that down, stop going for the sale, be providing value. That's the best thing you could possibly do. So Jeannie, shout out. Thank you so much for the question. And again, I'm tabling your TikTok question for just a second. Actually, let's do it right now because I'm going to bring in a second question from the broke agent that I got on Instagram that says, do you have a TikTok strategy? So now there's 2 people that asked about it. It was actually 3. And so I wanted to spend a little bit of time on that. The answer is yes. In a sense, I have a TikTok strategy. If you look at like a pie chart of where I'm allocating my thought and my time and my spend and stuff like that, TikTok is probably last. It's getting 5% out of 100 or something like that. So I don't want to make it sound like I'm all in on TikTok per se. I think in the world of social media, you have Facebook and then your Facebook ad strategy. You have Instagram and Instagram stories, which are 2 completely different platforms. You have LinkedIn and the organic marketing that you can do just by providing value and things like that. And then probably next would be TikTok. And again, it kind of goes back to like the last question I just answered. If you're using TikTok to get sales, you're probably fighting an uphill battle because that's not necessarily what the platform is yet. In fact, it's still a very young platform, but what it is very good at is organic spread. And that's something that you haven't seen with Facebook and Instagram for probably a year or 2, is any type of organic spread. In fact, for the last year or 2 on Instagram and Facebook, you had to pay to play. Whereas on LinkedIn and, or on TikTok and to a certain extent LinkedIn, you can get some organic spread here. Now, that being said, what is the strategy? It's just posting. It goes back to the concept of documenting and not creating. And so basically what I do is I just document out my day that I normally would do, but I put it onto TikTok. And I took, probably 2 or 3 days at the very initial onset. I probably got onto the platform back in September, October of last year. In fact, it was mid-October because I went on my baby moon with my wife up to Canada, and it was right around that time that I was learning the platform. And so what I do is when I go into a house and do a tour, I'll do a pano, and then I'll add a song to it and I'll put a caption on it that's what do you think this house is going to sell for, or something like that. And so now I'm over 100 videos on TikTok. Again, very little of it is curated for TikTok. Most of it is just stuff that I would have already put on Instagram stories or that I would have put onto YouTube or Facebook or something like that. It's just shot in a quick vertical format. And so the point is, though, it's weird to say that even though you're not necessarily doing any ad spend or using it for sales, I've made connections with other realtors who are early adapters on the platform now that would potentially turn into referrals later on down the line, which is in essence kind of like the whole macro of why you're on different social media channels is to provide value, but then also make connections with people. So like I met just different agents that are already there, and now we've connected into Instagram, and now we follow each other on Instagram, or we message each other there. So it's not necessarily TikTok that as a channel that did anything for me, but it was the connections that it made. And then again, like I said in the very first question, it's just a distribution channel, and like you cannot get romantic about how you used to do things or how you think things should be done. The thing is there's over 1 billion users on TikTok, so whether you like it or not, that shouldn't matter. The point is you have to like learn the new strategies as they come on, and whether or not TikTok takes off or it goes away, I don't know. Heck if I know, right? And so, like I said, it gets 5% of my thought process right now because I don't know where it's going to go. But if it does happen to stick around, I want to be an early adopter on the platform, and I want to know how to use the platform. So like if you've been on TikTok, like go jump in there. It takes a couple hours to like figure out even like how to make a post or how to use the camera transitions and stuff like that. And what I really think comes into play is that what if TikTok isn't the thing, right? What if it just goes away next year or whatever? I don't know. But then the next thing that comes is the new Facebook, and it had a lot of the same features that TikTok had. So if you were successful on TikTok and you know how to like capture attention really quick, because that's what you have to do on TikTok, that translates over to the new thing, and then now you're ahead of the game over there. You see what I'm saying? Like, I don't care where the people go, and I don't get romantic about where the different people like consume my content. If you did, and if you're like a real estate agent especially, like you'd still be doing newspaper ads and like bus benches and stuff like that. Not saying bus benches are bad, but like the whole strategy has shifted over the past 20 years, and now before our eyes it's shifting even a little bit more. But now we're like scared to look at that new shift, so we're just gonna stick to Facebook and Instagram. I don't get it. Like, I don't care where the shift is going. It's not my job to predict it. My job is to actually watch where the eyes are going and try to be present and like learn that platform. So anyways, my TikTok strategy is basically just to be there, take some time, learn the platform, like learn what actually works and what doesn't, and then how you can incorporate it. But like, you don't necessarily need to like dive in and do the dances and stuff like that. I'm not necessarily advocating for that. I'm just talking about learning out the platform and figuring out how it works for you. So thanks, Jeannie and Broke Agent, for the TikTok question. Although Broke Agent did throw a couple more questions, including, are you even remotely athletic? I think if how you would design or define remotely comes into play there. I can golf now. I used to be really, really athletic, actually, as I sip my 3 o'clock beer. So the answer is, I guess I'm remotely athletic. I do get tired when I go on runs now to go do the stairs. So there's that. All right, over to Instagram. We took a question. Video on a budget. What tools should we have if we're not paying a media company? It's a really good question. I mean, honestly, like if you're asking for like the technical like specifications, like what tools you should have, I mean, you could just do everything with your phone, truthfully. Like you see guys with the setups and they have like the DSLR camera with the front lights and all these video converters, and that's great, and it makes it look really, really good. You can do 90% of what you need to do though just from your phone. I would say that if you're going to take it to like the next step and you want to do something like a little bit more professional, so to speak, you could get a lav mic, which is basically like a mic that plugs into your phone and it clips onto here. And then a ring light or some sort of like front facing light. So that's all you really need for like a professional, and a tripod. Tripod, ring light, and some sort of like a mic setup, because audio is really, really important, as we saw from the beginning of this Facebook Live. I think what actually happened, guys, is I had my Ecamm Live muted. It wasn't the headphones' fault. But anyways, so you set up your phone on like a tripod with like a ring light, and then you have some sort of mic system, and you're set. You can do 99% of the videos that you need to do, especially if it's like one-on-one videos like this, or even interview style. If you're out in the field doing stuff or you're walking, it gets a little bit tougher. Like if you're in movement, because then the light doesn't move with you, it gets a little bit weird. But for the most part, 99% of things that you can do, you just do with a tripod and like a ring light. I use an app called Video Shop to edit most of my stuff. So I have some like videos that I just posted the other day where it was like a video of my 3D tour thing, and then it goes in and then pops into the 3D tour. I just edited that all on my phone in Video Shop, and I think it's a free app. It might be like $2 or something like that. I don't know. Where I do, and you can add music to it. You could add text and stuff like that. It's like a bootleg Photoshop, but for videos that you can do on your phone. So anyways, I use Video Shop. I also use Typorama, which is a little app that you can like add text to things. Someone asked it on the last live, and so like right now, like I'm doing this Facebook Live, I'm using a service called Ecamm, two M's live, and this allows you to put like the overlay and like the questions and stuff like that, and I can see like the questions come up in real time. And so that's Ecamm Live. So there's a lot of softwares out there, and they all do like different things. I think for this, there's also like Be Live TV and some other things that you can do for software wise. But tools that you should have if you're not paying a media company would just be like a tripod to get you like a set situation and a mic with good front facing light. That's about it for most of the video content you're trying to do. If you wanted me to dive more into that, maybe ask a follow-up question or something like that along those lines. Like if you meant something else by that, if you meant like more on the creative side, like not hiring a videographer or something, I can dive into that. But if you were just asking specifically like what tools, that's my answer. So thanks for the question. Next, we've got Rancho Santa Fe Lifestyle. What are some of the best food delivery options you've seen lately? All right, so that's a tough question. Well, I don't know if it's a tough question as much as it is like a interesting question right now because, I mean, we use Postmates, right? Like, is there anything else besides Postmates? Maybe I shouldn't have even answered this one, and I feel bad because I just use Postmates for everything, or I just go get it and I just get the takeout. Like I've been doing a supporting local business like video series type thing. But I just go and I just pick it up, and like now I wear a mask and everything like that. But we did order Postmates like a couple days ago. I've always just used Postmates. I don't even know what the other ones are, like DoorDash and Uber Eats and stuff like that, right? So one of the things that we did see is that because we always order our groceries with Amazon Prime Now, but because of like the overloading and stuff like that, Prime Now, the delivery windows have been really, really like tough. Like we can never get our food delivered, so I've had to go to the grocery store a couple times. But we noticed that, and like we heard tips that if you get on like right at midnight, then you can usually get your windows or something. But it didn't work for us the last 2 days. We did get a Target order, which was able to get us some food because the Target has like a grocery store. So that did work for us. We got an order in today for that. But if you're asking about food specifically, I don't know. I just use Postmates. Good question. Next question. Book recommendations. Okay, so Josh asked about quarantine book recommendations. In fact, there was another question too, and I didn't like send it up, asking about podcast and books together. So if you're watching, I want to answer the podcast question too. I can't help you too much. I don't listen to business podcasts, and so like that was the question: is like, what business podcast do you recommend? Sorry, I'm going to scoot back just a little bit because the sun's getting into my eyes. I don't listen to business podcasts, and maybe I should, and I know a lot of people like swear by it and stuff like that. I only listen to 2 podcasts. It's the Bill Simmons podcast and 538 Politics podcast. That's like where I get my news and my sports updates. That's literally all I listen to for podcasts. Maybe I should listen to more, but anyways, book recommendations. That's a really good question from Josh. So book-wise, we do, on our team, we do a book club. And so we actually like have a book of the month. I got to follow up with my team because I sent out the new books, but I don't think anybody's gotten them yet. We're starting to read Fear is Failure by Steve Scholl. Or no, not by Steve Scholl. I don't know who the author is, but I got the recommendation from Steve Scholl, who's my coach. But for the sake of quarantine book recommendations, I'm just going to go over like the last 5 or 6 books that I've read, and then the one I'm going to add in 1 or 2 that I think are really, really good if you haven't read them yet. So first and foremost, I think Stories That Stick is like, let me just like size this differently here because it's taking up the whole thing. Okay, so Stories That Stick is by far and away the best book that I've read in like the last 6 months. It's by Kendra Hall. Shout out Kendra. It basically breaks down how using storytelling to tell your story, obviously throughout social media, is the game. And that goes back to like the very first question too that was asked about mistakes that are made on social media. And I think going in for the kill and going in for the sale is like the wrong move. The whole point of being social media is like being able to get your message across and like build up your brand. Well, Stories That Stick tells you exactly how to do it. It breaks down the 4 different type of stories that every business should have. It's the founder's story or the origin story. There's the, shoot, I should really read the book again. There's the value story, the client story. I forgot the 4th. And it'll come to me in a second. I just had a lot going on. But that was a really, really good book. In fact, if you read into each one, each time I'm reading through it, I'm like, oh shit, I know exactly what my story is. And then I would write like a whole thing, and then we would go shoot it in a video or something like that. Very, very good book. I highly recommend it. If you have quarantine time, read this one. The second book that I would recommend is The Conversion Code. So this one goes back a ways. I read this book probably like 5 years ago. It's written by Chris Smith, the co-founder of Curator. He's also like a keynote speaker. He basically breaks down, to the best that I've seen anybody else break down, exactly how to set up like internet like sales funnels and then actually bring them down to the point of like getting an appointment or a sale. It's really, really good. The whole first half of the book talks about like setting up your audiences on Facebook and like your actual funnels. And then the second half of the book talks about like the perfect sales call and how to like convert a lead into a sale. So if you're in the real estate space, really it's outside of real estate, it's all sales book. And, but I would really recommend this book. Third is actually by the same author, but this time he teamed up with Jimmy Mackin, shout out Jimmy, to give us exactly what to say for real estate agents. So this was written by Phil Jones, who's the co-author of the book. He wrote Exactly What to Say. I think it's just called Exactly What to Say. And it's like keywords for sales in order to like, you know, get elicit responses that you want. This one was for real estate agents though. And so I'm answering this question for Josh, who's a real estate agent. So if you're not a real estate agent, sorry, just give me 10 more seconds. But this book tells you exactly like the empathetic like ways to frame questions so that you lead with empathy and you get to the answers that you want. Or, you know, and if it's a no, that's great too. That they talk about that in the book a little bit too, is like if the client is trying to lead you on or not into it, you want to get to that point as quickly as possible too. And that kind of actually ties in to my next book recommendation, which is Never Split the Difference. I'm a huge Chris Voss fan. I'm actually in a coaching like program with him. We do a monthly call where he kind of like walks us through tactical empathy and different things. This guy was an FBI negotiator. He actually breaks down like the science of what people are thinking when you're having conversations with them and like the things that you should say in order to elicit responses that you want. But again, and if the answer is that I don't want to do business with you or something like that, that's fine. That's great. We just need to get there quicker than it would be if you go, you know, if you take a different route. So shout out Never Split the Difference. And then the 2 books, honestly, that probably shaped my entire career. I read them very, very early on, like 5-6 years ago. Were shout out to Gary V books. It's Crush It and The Thank You Economy. And the funny part about these 2 books is that these aren't like, as far as I know, like these aren't like his best sellers. These are the 2 that kind of flew under the radar, but it really like paints the macro picture of how you should like go about the business, right? So Crush It is the first book of his that I read that actually kind of like gives you the macro idea of the fact that you're not a whatever you are. You're not a real estate agent. You're not a car salesman. You're not a whatever. You're a media company that happens to sell real estate, or you're a media company that happens to be an athlete, or a media company that happens to sell cars or insurance or whatever. I don't know. Insert whatever you do. So the second you realize that you are the new Fox and NBC, and the content you put out every single day that people are consuming is the new TV shows, and this or these channels are the new channels, you've started to like twist the game a little bit. And now you can actually start to communicate with people on a different level as opposed to just throwing yourself out there and selling it. And then the Thank You Economy is basically leading with the concept of giving before asking, right? And if you can lead with, and it ties into his other book, Jab, 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 Right Hook, but just providing value and education, being funny, whatever it is, but not going for the ask right away, then you're going to go a lot further. You're going to start to build up brand and trust and credibility. So those are the I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 books that I recommend, especially as quarantine book recommendations. If you haven't read those, I've read all 6. I recommend all 6 of them highly. But leave a comment below. If you have something that you're reading right now, I'd be open to hearing it too, because I'm always looking for new stuff as well. So, okay, question by Jamie. And I think she's watching the live too. I think she commented a second ago. So when hiring people to your team, what's the process look like for interviewing? So good question. I haven't brought anybody on my team in a while. I think Jack was my last hire. So I have to kind of think about that. So I wish I could give you a better answer. I've never like put out a post to like hire people in. So I haven't had to go through the interview process like a whole heck of a lot with my team. My team's very new. I mean, we've only been together as a team for about 18 months to 2 years or something like that. Really, I'm looking for a couple of things. I'm looking for people that get it. So when I talk to them, I want to know that they understand like the bigger picture of like how to generate business and why we're doing things the way that the way that I recommend to do. Because like if you don't buy in on the macro of how we're selling, you're gonna get disenfranchised really quick. You're gonna want to go somewhere else, and if that's the point, like why are we even doing the whole exercise? You know what I mean? So basically, when I sit down with someone to talk about the potential of bringing them on to working with me, I'm gauging to see if we're going to be a good fit, of course, but then if they get the concept behind my marketing strategy. And so I'll ask them things like exactly like how active are they on social media? If I'm sitting down with them in a meeting, I've probably already checked them on social media and I see a little bit about how they operate and things like that. I also want to know a little bit about their history. In the business, right now, especially with, I'm not like, I don't bring on a lot of new people just because it takes a whole heck of a lot of time to like drum people up. My team is not a big team. There's 6 of us. It's not something like, there's a lot of really, really big teams, Kyle Whistle team, Dan Beer, shout out, like that just like have a ton of people and they're really, really good at what they do. And they're so streamlined and like, I can't get there, and I wish I could actually to a little extent, like because like they have really good processes in place, and I don't. And so really, I'm just trying to see how we vibe, and then I'm trying to see if they get it. And get it is such a tough thing to quantify, but I'm trying to see like how we would fit together and if we would be a good fit in that stretch. Now, I take a lot of meetings too because I do get reached out to like on Instagram and stuff. They're like, "Hey, I'm looking for a team and stuff like that." I'll take a lot of meetings just to feel people out because a lot of times I try to be a connector too. So a lot of times I'll even say like, hey, I'm not looking to hire someone right now, but I would love to meet with you for coffee just to see if I know of some people that are. And I've done that with a couple people too, where I've said, hey, thanks so much for meeting. Like I said, I'm not looking to hire anybody, but I know that X team is, and I'll make an introduction. Not only to get him into Compass if that was their thing, they wanted to come work with me. I've referred people to other teams outside. Like I've referred people to Big Block Realty and some other realties like here in San Diego because I'm like, oh, this would actually be a better fit for you, what you're looking to do. So I always take those type of meetings and I always just kind of feel out the vibe and try to connect people with what their best fit is. So thanks for the question. Boom. I think that's it for this question. I had like 2 or 3 more, but I didn't send it through. In order to, here, let me see if just I can grab them real quick because I think they were good questions. They were on the last one. Okay, so there's 3 more, and there's not going to be a question for them, but best media content to put out there for the most engagement. Okay, so that was a question that I got on my last one, and so I don't have a way to put that out there. But the best media content to put out there for the most engagement. That's a really good question in the sense of like. Here's the deal. I can put a post out right now that's going to get a ton of engagement. Like if you're thinking about Instagram, I always go to the A/B posts. And A/B posts are just straight engagement posts. But the thing is like they really don't do much for like your business. So here's an example of like an A/B post, right? And so if you see like here, let's see, like my last A/B post before that I think had a lot. Yeah, so this A/B post, and it went away. So that had almost 700 likes and almost 73 comments. They always get somewhere around like 100 comments because what you're doing is you're eliciting like a comment by saying, which do you prefer, A or B, right? And so something like this gets a ton of engagement in the sense of like it gets you a lot of like likes and comments, because what you're doing is you're eliciting a comment by saying, which do you prefer, A or B? Well, when you do that, you start to get a lot of comments down below. People say A, B, A, B. And so Instagram, it kind of tricks Instagram, thinks that you have like a post that people need to see because it's getting a ton of comments. So anyways, it thinks that it's a really engaging post because you have so many comments, and a lot of comments and likes means that it's an engaging post. But all you're doing is kind of tricking. It's not, there's no bottom line to it. Like it's just an engaging post. So like there's stuff like this that is really, really engaging. I think that the best content you can put out as a real estate agent is documenting like your journey. No matter, and I always say this, and it's so weird to like say this. Hold on, real quick, my dog. Buster, come here, come here. Documenting your journey is the best possible thing you could do. So now, no matter what step of the journey you're at, there's somebody who's interested in seeing that step of the journey. So if you're a brand new agent, especially like years 1 through 3 or 0 through 2 or whatever, that would be like the best content, is like seeing how you got through years 1 and 2, all the late nights and all the calls and like where you got your business and all that type of stuff is gold, because there's so many people at the top of the funnel that are trying to get into the business, that when they're getting into the business and they're new, they're searching for like, what do I do? New agent, stuff like that. And your content will come up, which means that you'll get a lot more traction because you're showing off what it's like to be an agent in those early stages. Then you go into like years 3 through 10. It's like where I am right now. It's into your like business building years. You're starting a team, or you set up an S corp and you're starting to make some money, or whatever that is. That's a whole new phase. But like people in years 1 and 2 can't even fathom that yet, because they're just trying to figure out how to open a lockbox and how to get a deal. So that's different stage content. And then there's like year 10 plus, which is like your top producers. And there's a whole nother set of content for that years 3 through 10 can't even fathom, because they're thinking of like exit strategy and like different things that are like high level. And that's super, super interesting for other people in that phase. But that's the best possible content that you can put out, is documenting what you do on a daily and letting people like inside to see what phase you're in of the journey. There's people who will get down with that, and it's really, really engaging, and it really makes connections on like a guttural level, because it's like you feel like you know the person because you're in the same stage as them, or you're in the stage behind them or in front of them, that like you remember that stage, or you're getting ready to go into that stage. So it makes like real engaging connections. I think that's the best possible engagement that you can put on if you're trying to like have actual real connections. If you want just like likes and follows and like comments, A/B pictures, giveaways are really good. It's like, hey, we're gonna give away a $50 gift card. In order to win, you just follow my page, like this, and share it, or something like that. So you can get around like engagement things, but I don't necessarily think that those are like the best things to put out. You got to pepper them in a little bit because like it keeps the numbers good, but like it's not the most engaging. So anyways, that's a really good question. Thanks for asking. That's going to wrap it up because my dog's going nuts. And it's been 30 minutes. I'm going to repurpose this over on Instagram and Twitter. We're going to do this again, probably over the weekend or maybe on Monday. So thanks so much for tuning in. If you have questions, find me on Instagram and just shoot me a DM, and I'll put them on the next show. So peace.